You're tough until you can't be tough anymore. You got to step back and use another version of strength, which is actually saying, I'm hurt. I need to do something
I
different.
think there is a shitload of people, James, especially in construction, that are walking around with all this heavy stuff. Maybe it's pain, maybe it's trauma that they experienced as a child, maybe they lost their best friend to substance misuse, suicide, and they don't know how to process that, and it just sits inside and it eats away at you over time.
Something came down and smashed his finger. So immediately he pulled his glove off, and here's his severed finger, and he grabs it and throws it over his shoulder and puts his glove back on and gets back to work.
Knowing what you know now, what would you say to somebody who's maybe sitting in the same conditions you were a few years ago, in pain, considering if it was worth going on? Hello and welcome back to the Human Side of Construction podcast, where we provide construction leaders the insights they need to improve the industry and the great people in it. Today I'm sitting down with James Boseley, trades lead at Payne, BC out of British Columbia. James spent 25 years in the oil field, on rigs, behind the wheel, running heavy equipment, until a workplace incident changed the course of his life. He went from pushing through the pain, the way so many of us are taught, to being unable to work, to fighting a system that wasn't built to help him. Now he's channeling that lived experience into something the industry desperately needs: real support for trades workers living with chronic pain. This is a conversation about what happens when the toughest people in our industry get hurt, and nobody knows how to talk about it. James, welcome to the show, and I'm honored for you to join me today.
Thank you very much. Very honored to be here.
So we connected. Your name came up a couple times, funnily enough. So Trevor Botkin, I recorded a show with him on site when I was out in Langley a couple months ago. And we connected a couple years ago. And through my conversations with him, your name kept coming up. I mentioned to you before the show too, my wife actually works in pain research at University of Western Ontario. And she had forwarded me your LinkedIn account actually when Payne, BC kind of. So it's funny how this stars aligned to bring us here today. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. So I like to start at the beginning, right? Because you worked in the industry, you had some experiences, now you're helping people out that might have similar experiences to yourself. So take me back. You grew up in rural Alberta. What was the culture like around construction work and the workers themselves?
Yeah, so when I got out of high school, and I guess it was 1991, I spent a couple of years, still working at Safeway and trying to avoid the oil patch as much as I could, but it was just too tempting. So in 93, I started working in a pipe yard. So, we're moving joints of pipe back and forth on these wooden boards. And I can remember even back then spraining my back where I was put into a Quonset, painting signs and stuff like that. So they were pretty good about it, but I think it was one of those things that, because it happened at work and it was noticed at work by everybody else, that they had to kind of take care of it. But overall, there wasn't there was a big stigma around any kind of pain, or if you had some mental health issues or something going on at home, it was always, rub some dirt in or get back out there because there's no time to be down. I can remember trying to turn valves when I was a battery operator and they were too tight, and I could have went back to the truck, grabbed like a snipe or something like that, something to help me move it. Instead, I just hurt myself by turning my own arm into a snipe to do it. So it just goes back a long time. Like even working for my dad, we had a corral cleaning company of all things, and there was no time to be down because it was such a short season. You got to work as much as you could. So it didn't matter if it was at home, family, friends, work. It just wasn't accepted. You just didn't have the time.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword too, right? Because some of it, I think in the past was workplace driven, right? It's like companies didn't want to deal with that. They put you on modified duty, and that's how they solved the business problem, by not having you lose time. But that doesn't solve the core issue, which is the injury and the pain that's associated. And there's a societal part too, right? About just being a man and not needing help. And you know what I mean? It's like simple things. I've done it at home where I've been lifting stuff. My wife's, "You want me to help you?" And I'm like, "No, I'm a man." And sure enough, boom, you get hurt. And it was so not worth it for that 5 seconds of feeling like a man. You're down for a week, or God forbid something worse happens, right?
So, it was like a sense of pride of, that I can handle the pain. I can remember my dad telling me, like, he worked in the oil field before I was even born. And he was telling me a story about a guy. They were trying to work on some piece of equipment, and something came down and smashed his finger. So immediately he pulled his glove off, and here's his severed finger smashed, and he grabs it and he goes, "That's fucked," and throws it over his shoulder and puts his glove back on and gets
His
back to
finger.
work. Finger.
Oh my
They
God.
just throw that away, just like he squashed a bug.
Yeah, so that's a pretty good story he got out of it though. But no, that's true, man. It's the mentality. And I don't know
Yeah.
if nobody told me explicitly this is how you act, but maybe it's through observations, or like, how have you seen how
Yeah.
that culture exists? Because it's not isolated to Alberta or Ontario or Canada.
No.
It's everywhere. So where, in your experience, what do you think it stems from?
I think you're right. It's one of those things, you see it over and over again, and you get to a point where I'm not going to say anything either, because look at the way they're acting. Look at how they're responding to pain or injury, or like even getting yelled at by the boss. You just, okay, this is how it is,
Yeah.
and just continue on. It's
Yeah.
normalized.
In your experience through working on the rigs and on the different jobs you've worked at, you talk to your peers and stuff. How many guys and gals are out there dealing with pain on a daily basis?
Probably, I'd say 80 times more than actually say anything.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that might be a huge exaggeration,
Yeah.
but like I'm trying to think back to, like, I did a lot of electric wireline where you're lifting heavy objects and carrying it back and forth. You're working with explosives and radiation and all this other stuff, and working insane hours. Like I've been on location for 40 plus hours, and that was just one shift of 40 plus hours.
Wow.
And I don't remember a lot of people saying, I'm sore. They maybe, oh, that kind of hurt lifting, whatever it was. But then it was ignored. I know even myself that if somebody said that, I was just like, yeah, it's part of the job.
Yeah.
Until it really got to a point where, look, I got to look at this because this is too much.
Right.
This is something that's really affecting me making a living. And I don't remember too many people that I can really stick my memory back there and that they said, if this continues, I'm going to have to change jobs. Nobody ever had that thought process that I can remember.
Yeah, at least not saying it out loud.
Yeah.
It is unique, and this came up in the conversation with Trevor, and I get this comment a lot on social media. It's construction, it's unique in the sense that you're literally giving a piece of your body to the project. You're wearing out your body with every swing of the hammer or going down from a crouch and up. It's physically demanding, right? Lifespan on your knees, there's lifespan on your hips. And that's just wear and tear. That's not even counting injuries. That's, I guess, in one way, it's a bit poetic thinking about, as you build a building, you're donating a part of yourself, but it's also sad because it has a shelf life, right?
Yeah, because that building continues to go on doesn't mean your income always does. That might be the last building that you're able to be strong enough to do what you're doing. And I say strong enough, but I'm not saying that people that come out and say, look, this was an injury and this is this, that, and other thing, that they're weak. I don't believe that at all.
Yeah.
Because I think the majority of us, you're tough until you can't be tough anymore. Like you got to step back and use another version of strength, which is actually saying, I'm hurt. I need to do something different. Like I need to be looked at by a doctor or whatever. And I did see that towards the end of my oil field career, where it was being more accepted, where you could go and talk about things. And we even had instant report forms. You'd fill out what had happened or an injury you may have had. And then that was used to learn.
Right.
It was a great idea.
Yeah.
But I did notice the short career that I had with driving on the island there on Vancouver Island, I'd never seen much of that. So I think it's something that has to evolve over time, maybe. And I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but I just didn't notice that same level of safety. If something does go wrong, you fill out a hazard assessment so that you can learn from those and try and have just preventative measures that sort of thing doesn't happen, or you add some equipment that maybe make life a little bit easier for you. I didn't notice that, and that's how I fell more than once.
Yeah.
And I think it was just a repetition of falling and hurting and everything else. And but the one big fall that set me off, that was just a chain reaction of a 9-foot fall where the whole side of my body, from my heel to my lower leg, my hip, my back, it was all broken up. Like I had a
Oh,
shattered heel, broken lower leg, a broken hip, and then my discs were compressed and herniated discs. So it was, and you go, at least with me, I went and I reported that, and it was, here's your next dispatch. And I was told that maybe I'm too old for this job and maybe I need to look at something different and
how
things
old
like
were
that.
you how old were you at the time?
When I fell, that was not quite uh, 8 years ago. So that would be, I think it was 34,
Yeah.
35.
So at that point, you had been in that type of work for your adult life up to that
Yeah,
point.
since I was 19 years old. I was always driving trucks, even in the oil field.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know that even the oil field did a ton of damage on me because for the longest time I worked 100 mile an hour
Yeah.
because that's how it was. I mainly did shallow gas out there. So these shallow gas projects, you don't make a lot of money. So it's really tight bids. So you got to run from start to finish because some days I was working on 10 different wells. Days it was 3. So you always had to just keep going. So there was times I was jumping out of the truck and it was about a 4-foot drop to get out of it and do that 10 times a day, if not more.
Yeah.
Over time, your heels, your ankles, your knees, your back, everything is just
Well, all your
beaten
joints.
to a
Yeah.
pulp.
Your
Yeah,
body's not designed to do that repetitive stress over and over again.
not
So
at all.
with the one fall you mentioned, like what, I don't know, let's go back to that moment. Like at what point did you realize that, okay, this isn't like other times? Obviously 9 feet is quite a distance. So that was probably worse than you've ever experienced before that.
Yeah, and I didn't even notice it at the time because I've got pretty high adrenaline and
Yeah.
uh, like I just don't feel pain when my adrenaline's up high, right?
So did you just pop
And
up and go back to work or
yeah, I did.
oh my God.
Yeah, I
Oh,
so I what I was doing, I was trying to lay out my tarp and I stepped on a piece of cardboard and it was completely hollow underneath and I dropped. I'm screaming after this, after that.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
mad because I fell. It was more angry than anything. And the site supervisor came running up the ladder and he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm just mad. I fell." And I didn't feel right, but I wasn't going to say that in the moment. And I finished my day and I really didn't notice how bad it was until the middle of the night. I got up to go to the washroom. And as I stepped on the ground, I couldn't put any foot or any weight on my foot.
Yeah.
And I just did a face plant.
Okay.
So I ended up working like that for 4 months, up to
Oh, well.
75 hours a week, 6 days a week. And the only reason I did go off is I had a separate incident where I was trying to climb up the side of a disposal bin as well. There was a smaller one, but it didn't have a proper ladder. And I'm a short ass. I'm only 5.5 feet tall. So trying to climb up, I jump up, put my stomach on it, twist into the bin. And when I did that, I caused an umbilical hernia.
Okay.
So it was bad enough. The doctor said, like, you have to go off work now because this could become pretty severe. So I
So
did.
that hernia was in addition to your injury you already had.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how the hell did you work when you couldn't put pressure on your foot? Like,
I like the yard I worked at, it was a pretty big gravel. From walking from my pickup truck to my work truck, I was wincing and
yeah,
almost had tears coming down my eyes. It was so bad, but I
yeah,
would take Robaxacet or leave or something, just thinking it was going to get better.
right.
I didn't think it was to the extent it was. And then finally, I went into emergency and told them what happened, told them it was at work and everything else, but they didn't document any of that it was at work.
No.
And then I did the x-rays and they said it was inconclusive. So get me in line for a CT scan, which
Yeah.
was, I think it was 3 months away. And went into that. They said, we're not too sure, but we're going to get you into this specialist. But the specialist wasn't until November. But I remember I walked into the specialist office in November and he just started shaking his head and he goes, "What are you doing?" "Coming to see you." And he goes, "Where's your cast?" I said, "I don't know what you're talking about."
Yeah.
He said, you should have been in a cast for the past 6 months. And I didn't know. When I reached out, if it was that bad, they would have seen you or stuff like that. My doctor, he
Yeah.
didn't forward any of that information to me. So by that time, he said it was going to be at least 2 years for my foot to heal because it was a calcaneal fracture,
Yeah.
air pockets. That's kind of how your heel would be, or at the bottom of your foot. And he said there was nothing left. I was just walking on bone.
Okay.
So it was just a combination of a whole bunch of mess. It took about a year and a half to find out the extent of all the injuries, the broken hip, the broken leg, even.
Yeah.
I just kept going because nobody told me any different.
Well, it's what options do a lot of people have, right? You got bills to pay,
Yeah.
families, whatever, dogs, like you got to feed yourself. There's that, the stresses of everyday life, plus what I've heard from workers about pain or even substance misuse. You don't want to disclose it to your employer because they might use it as a way to, oh, this guy's not
Yeah.
cut out or he's going to cause issues. So I think that's why there's a stigma. Well, there's a stigma around it, but there's also a bit of a liability there that it might affect your employment. And I'm sure in some cases
Yeah.
it has, although it is illegal for that to happen. Unfortunately, those kind of things do. Somebody might be listening and say, why the hell didn't you get help sooner, James? But if
Yeah.
you're just living your life and you're taught to fight through the pain and keep going, it ends up in a worse situation.
Yeah. And like you said, like just trying to make ends meet because I moved out to the island. I thought, okay, it's pretty mild temperatures. So I just had a bumper pole style camper. I thought it was in better shape when I bought it, but it turned out it wasn't. The thing was falling apart, full of mold. Mice were getting in and
Yeah.
everything else. So I wasn't even living in best condition. So I was like, I got to improve my life. So I got to keep working.
Yeah.
And whether bones are broke or not, I got to keep going. And
Right.
unfortunately, I think that's why the majority of people keep going. And then, like, I was lucky enough that I didn't get into substances at all, even like a food addiction. Like, the way I soothed myself was eating,
Yeah.
getting foods that made me happier, but it still didn't do me any good. I mean, I put on at least 100 pounds during that time.
Yeah.
It was brutal. So I see where people can go to substances to try and soothe.
For sure.
And then it just keeps getting worse because you need more and more or whatever.
Well, I think
It's heartbreaking.
that's tied into, when you look at mental health, we're talking about physical health and pain, but they're one and the same, man. And I've said this a lot, and that was a lot of my
Yes.
conversation with Trevor is mental health is part of health and safety. I think, unfortunately, now we have to explicitly make that distinction and
Yeah,
clarify it. But you lived it, and I'm sure others have too. A physical injury is one thing, but it impacts your mental health as well because it impacts
absolutely.
your thought of, okay, how am I going to provide now if I can't work? It affects your mood, obviously. If you're injured, you're not able to have a good quality of life. Like you said, there's other ways that you go to self-soothing or self-medicating a lot of people. So it's all kind of part and parcel, right? And there's again, there's a stigma around that. So on the system, like you went through it, and you can call it healthcare system, work system, whatever. Do you think they're built for helping workers, or is it just to kind of close the file and push things along?
I question if it's for anybody right now because of the way that people get pushed through the system. And I think that trades workers, they're not really going to offer a lot of advice because the people are trying to push them through anyways, right? So there might be a lot of things that they want to bring up, but they just don't because they got to get out of there fast. They
Yeah.
booked off that afternoon or whatever to go to the doctor, and all they're thinking about is what they're missing at work and how much it's costing them to go. So I don't think the system is really built for anyone because I even know, for example, my sister or somebody that's dealing with pain, like they lived out in the island. That's why I moved out to the island. And I seen them going through things and it was just, they're stuck in the system too.
Yeah.
So I think it's just overrun.
The healthcare system is definitely underfunded, and there's challenges there. I think around the mental health piece too, people just don't know how to deal with that stuff. It's
No.
it's largely understood and under researched, or misunderstood and under researched, so it's tougher to treat than medical injuries. So let me ask you a question too on
Yeah.
that period of life, right? Because you're dealing with pain, you accumulated over years, and then there was that acute fall. your living conditions aren't great. You couldn't afford a lawyer, so you couldn't fight things. How did you make it through that? Like, how did you make it through that period?
That's there was times I wasn't sure if I was going to
Yeah.
be honest. Like I'd reached out to Workers Advisors in BC, which is an amazing organization that does help people that are struggling to work with their case files with workers' compensation and just try and get them the best that they can get. But it's not always that easy either because I know my caseworker said we were going as far as we could go.
Yeah.
And I believed her because she was amazing. But I started understanding that this doesn't make sense to me. So I started really advocating for myself,
Mhm.
which was hard because at the same time, I was starting to take courses to try and understand my mental health and how my mental health and my body, like you mentioned, are connected. But it was something that was new to me. I didn't understand that. And so I started taking Gabor Mate's Compassion Inquiry course, mainly to help myself. But then I realized that throughout it, you would practice with people, like you basically counsel others. And I realized that there was something there that I really enjoyed it. And the people said that the way I would talk to them and deliver, that there was something there. So I really started to focus on that path, that I wanted to take control of things.
Yeah.
So after that, I took a coaching course. And then after that, I started actually volunteering for Pain BC as a pain coach. So I
Okay.
took their pain coaching course and I just fell in love with it. Like
Yeah.
talking to having clients that I could relate to on that really true empathetic level because I understand the pain they're going through.
Mhm.
And that actually brought a lot of happiness to my life. And I was able to go to Workers' Compensation Board and say, you know what, here's what I'm doing. I've been doing it for this time. Here's a letter from the lead at the time, a wonderful person that said how good I was doing, and the response that I was coming back from clients and even clients' family members of
Yeah.
how different things were changing. So that actually helped me be able to go back to school and get a diploma in counseling,
Okay.
which I mean, to a lot of people that might not seem anything, but from a guy like me, that was everything. It was
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, I knew I wasn't going to be able to stay long enough or get the funding from them to get a master's,
Yeah.
but I mean, I was just stoked. So,
Yeah.
that actually helped really push me. And it's not that things were smooth. Like I really had to push at times, and I know my mental health was horrendous
Mhm.
where I'd ask for psych evaluations because I felt that I was going through was actually causing more harm than good.
Okay.
And lucky enough, they did listen to that.
Yeah.
And I did, they found my diagnosis. And I don't usually like diagnosis, I'll be honest about that.
Yeah.
But to me, I like to use that as a stepping stone on how I can get better
Like,
instead of using it as a way to be a victim. That I am this now, I am this identity. So you need to treat me this certain way. I don't like that.
no. And
Um,
and I've talked to other people too, and I have some people close to me who have been diagnosed with different things. And it's not a death sentence or a label, it's a piece of
no,
information. And I've had friends for ADHD, for example, they've got diagnosed with
yeah,
ADHD or BPD, different thing, but like, and something clicks, and all of a sudden, all the shit that they've experienced or different things that happened when they were younger makes sense.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
at one hand, there's a whole range of emotions that come with it too. Obviously, there's still stigma around the mental health thing, so there's that component. There's maybe a bit of guilt for not, and anger for not having the diagnosis sooner. And there's also a bit of joy to it, right? And relief that's saying, okay, I'm not just messed up. There's a reason that things are this way. And it helps you chart a path forward. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder,
Mm,
major depressive disorder, and ADHD.
mm,
So at first I was like, oh my God, I'm a broken toy. When I do look at it from that different angle and understand my childhood experience, because I had a high ACE score, which is the adverse childhood experience, I was like, okay, how do I work with that? Because that's all I know.
yeah.
The coping strategies that I used, and there's just a lot of bad coping strategies too,
Yeah.
where I would go straight to violence because that's all I ever seen in the house. I thought that was normal.
Right.
Even other family members, they're like, well, if that person did that to you, you better go handle business kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the more I did understand those diagnoses and that I realized how normal I was,
Yeah.
that it is just that stepping stone where, okay, now when, let's say somebody says something to me within the family and there was a time where I was going to be very defensive.
Yeah.
Now I can sit back and I can differentiate between it being my problem or if it's something that is actually their problem
Yeah.
that they're not. And then it just becomes easier.
Yeah.
Now I can have a conversation with them and find out where that's coming from. And it's not that I'm trying to have a blame game. I'm actually trying to help them too,
Yeah.
understand what's going on from them so that their life can be easier.
It's tied into what we were talking about before of just culture, society, or so many people just live their life on autopilot, James. And maybe it comes with age.
Yeah.
Maybe you just have to go through some shit. But I'll share a story with you that I've told before. But I was in my early 30s and I was going through some shit in my personal life, and I was not in a good spot. And I was reading books, I was going to therapy, all that stuff. But I had this moment. I remember I was sitting in the back deck on my house, and I just kind of realized I'm really fucked up. And it wasn't like a pity party. It wasn't.
No.
It was that, yeah, I'm fucked up, but so is everybody else. And we're all
Yeah.
just doing the best with the tools we got. And a lot of
100%.
people, like 75,
Yeah.
80% of people in the world, don't have the tools they need to deal with their stuff. And they're probably not even aware of these things. But I think there is a
Yeah.
shitload of people, James, especially in construction, that are walking around with all this heavy stuff. Maybe it's pain. Maybe it's trauma that they experienced as a child. Maybe they lost their best friend to substance misuse, suicide, and they don't know how to process that. And it just sits inside and it eats away at you over time. So I'll get off my soapbox now. But that was a beautiful moment for me. And it was the same like you were saying. It's not like we all pretend to be perfect and you're like, I don't want them to know about this, or I don't want, but we're all dealing with their own shit. So why don't we just be
Yeah.
more open about it, buddy?
Yeah. It is what you're saying is 100% true. I think, and I also think a lot of people are scared to look at their shit. Like, for example, I really went down the path of using psychedelics for a while. And I only share that because it benefited me so much.
Okay.
Like, I would not be in this position, wouldn't be wearing this shirt, working for these people if
Yeah.
it wasn't for it. And I truly believe that because
Yeah.
I was on the path of just ending it all because I
Okay.
couldn't stand myself and I just wanted to be gone. I didn't want to deal with it any longer.
Yeah.
But I started working with this and it showed me, for example, my dad was a pretty abusive alcoholic. It showed me that wasn't his fault either, that his life experience is what molded him. So it just became worse. And then I would talk to my sister about it or other family members, and I would say, this is something amazing. Like the way it felt like decades of therapy in one night kind of thing.
Yeah.
And with ayahuasca, I worked with it probably 40 times.
Yeah.
It might be more, I'm not sure. Or even psilocybin mushrooms.
Yeah.
And every time it just showed me a little bit more and more of why I am and where it came from. Like I even seen generational trauma from our family in it.
Yeah.
And I would talk to some of my family members and they would be asking questions. They'd be curious because they're in a funk too. But when it came down to that, when you're working with those psychedelics, you're out of control to an extent, unless you understand what's going on. And then you can kind of steer it your own direction. But the biggest thing to them was they were scared of what it would show them.
Right.
And I've heard that time and time again, that there's maybe a blocked memory that is extremely traumatic, and that's why it's blocked.
Yeah.
Your brain has purposely shut that off to protect you. And I also think that when a person becomes strong enough that they can look at those things, that's where the real healing can happen.
Yeah.
But I also understand why they hide from it.
And bringing it back to the construction culture of sucking it up and being a man.
Yeah.
It's frowned upon to show weakness because you're supposed to be strong. But you know how much fucking strength it takes to face your shit? It takes
Face
way
those
more
demons.
It takes way more strength to face those demons than to pretend they don't exist and keep powering through. I think that's the misnomer here we need to call out.
Yeah, like I turn that towards my own personal and family. But the reason why I was saying that as well is there is so many of those people that work in the trades
Yeah.
and that's why going from pain to addiction or whatever is so much easier for them, because there is a high level of people that deal with adverse childhood experience. Pain is a part of it. It's a pain that maybe they don't understand. It's not necessarily a physical injury. It's that mental part of us that it becomes a pain. It shows up somewhere.
Right.
And let's say for me, for example, when I feel really anxious or stressed out or angry or whatever, I feel it in my neck.
Yeah.
So it's okay. I didn't hurt my neck,
Mm.
and it's one of those things that it can lead to other things. But also, if you do get a physical injury, then the path from acute injury, which is usually say 0 to 3 months, that's usually your acute phase. And then chronic is 3 months past, 3 months and beyond. That's when those people, they can get stuck in a story as well that goes
Yeah.
along with the pain of, and sometimes it's a person feels as a victim, and they're not wrong. There's times where they are victimized, but if we can try and work with them to realize they are doing the best they can with what they have, that
Hmm.
you can actually get out of those pain cycles and
Yeah.
understand how the pain works. And sometimes, the MRIs, the blood work, the X-rays, they show nothing, but we're in so much pain,
Right.
and that's where the mental health part of it is. But also the physical injuries, it's just so sadly overlooked what these guys are doing through. I swear half of them are walking around with a shoulder ready to fall off or a
Yeah.
back ready to give out or knees or whatever.
Well, and they just
So I,
accept it's part
yeah,
of the gig, but it doesn't. And yeah, it's a physical industry, but we can't keep doing this. We're
no.
trying to sell this as a career to younger people who are coming in under different circumstances, and they're going to demand something different too. So let's just put some numbers on it here to give some perspective, and then we'll get into a little bit about what Pain BC is doing. But from what a little bit of research I did, in BC alone, 21% of toxic drug deaths are in the trades. Nearly 80% of construction workers who died of opioid overdose had a pain-related condition in the 5 years before. So when we look at these numbers, what do you see, having kind of lived that, and what some people might be missing?
I When we're looking at some of these other numbers, like I think it was 86% of people are saying that they have some sort of musculoskeletal injury. And the thing is, I think if you were to actually sit and talk to the majority of people in the trades, I say it's way higher.
Okay.
And one thing is, a lot of guys are scared to admit the pain they're in. And until we can let them know that it's safe for them to say, yes, I am hurt, I do need some help, it's going to continue. But what I'm seeing that I'm really proud of, and it makes me excited, is when I was starting this project, I was phoning out to companies, unions, associations, and just saying that this is what we're doing. We're addressing pain, where we want to add some pain education into training, into orientation, just really normalize the talk of pain. I didn't have anybody say, no, we're not willing to talk about that.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I'm in the office, is because my body gave up.
Mm,
So now this is what I do. I'm able to still, do what I'm passionate about, but it's from a different angle from the
right.
office. And so that part really excites me, that these guys are understanding it and willing to do something about it. Because when we're sitting, like at Buildex, for example, this year, we're sitting there, we're talking to all these guys coming by, and Ben Marsley, who's on our Trades and Pain Advisory Committee, he was really getting out there and saying, hey, you look like a trades guy, come over here and let's have a chat. Or he recognized the company, and they would come over and, so what kind of pain do you deal with? Oh no, I'm good. So we talked to him for 5 minutes, and all of a sudden, this shoulder has been
Yeah.
acting up for about 7 years.
Yeah.
They just keep going anyways.
Yeah. When people hear pain, they think like debilitating pain, like stop. Maybe
Yeah,
it's a definition thing we need to look at, because what might
you're
be
right.
a click in your shoulder or a little bit of mobility might evolve 2 years later into a serious problem, right? And
Absolutely.
if you caught it sooner and did something about it, it wouldn't totally avoid the issue. I'm not a medical guy, but I'm assuming it wouldn't totally avoid it, but you would prolong that period where it was okay. No?
Yeah, like I'll give you an example. So Build Strong by SERP, they've got an amazing couple of people, Barb Eddy and Michael Gardner. Barb works out of the Burnaby office, and Michael works on Vancouver Island and Langford. So what they do is myoactivation treatments. So anybody in the trades can reach out to them and get these treatments for free. It's microneedling. They really work on releasing the fascia. So all that scar tissue from old injuries and everything else, they're releasing it. And so some of the union people, and actually we've got some more, we found out a place that can do it for everybody. But so the Build Strong people that are union members, they get counseling as well. So that
Okay.
combination of the counseling and the myoactivation treatments, people aren't even going into that chronic phase, or they're
Yeah.
coming out of that chronic phase faster.
Right.
So it's just showing there's proof. And now another person, Cassidy Crow, on our advisory committee, she works with Green Health, and they have put it out that they've got some funding already paid for. So anybody in the trades can reach out to them and get up to a year of counseling for free.
Okay.
So you're getting your myoactivation for free. Now you can get some counseling for free. So that just gives me all kinds of hope that these people can use these resources and go from, maybe they've been off for a year or two, but they can talk to somebody, get the help they need, also get that myoactivation. And next thing you know, they're back, they're productive, or maybe they take a different position, doing something a little bit different they can work with.
And this is a provincial program in British Columbia? Or?
In BC, yeah. The Green Health, well, don't quote me on the Green Health. I'm not sure if they're just BC. I would have to look at that a little bit closer.
I'm always interested to hear because I think a lot of people think that they just do have to suck it up and there's no option.
Yeah.
You mentioned the cost of the treatment is free, but there's still a cost in admitting you have a problem and putting your ego aside. You know, barrier to entry with a lot of this stuff in mental health. I think people aren't willing to admit they need help. So that's an important step. So on that, we talked about it before. Rub some dirt in it, walk it off, suck it up, be a man. The work you guys are doing at Pain BC, which I want to hear more about in a second.
Yeah.
There's a campaign that calls that out. And I've seen it. Don't be a dumbass, which I love.
Don't be a dumbass. I love it.
So that's a challenge to the culture, right? So how do you change a culture that equates toughness with silence?
Don't be the dumbass is part of our Guideline campaign. And what the Guideline is it's a text-based support line that they could just reach out and say, hey, look, I'm struggling. So that way it's reducing stigma as well. It's open from 11 to 8 from Monday to Thursday. And that's strategic because we know tradespeople, something that's 8 to 4, it's not going to be for them. So we're keeping it open till 8. When they're at home, they're starting to unwind, and then all of a sudden that pain starts coming up and some sort of soreness. And now there's something where they can reach out, hit some numbers, and talk to somebody. We have a counselor that's generally working it. We're looking at hiring more people.
Yeah.
The whole idea of the campaign is saying, walk it off, a dumbass. So that's that old dumbass style. And it's not that we're telling people in pain that they're a dumbass. That's not it at all. It's just, that's how us trades guys talk.
So this comes up a lot too when I talk about even other stuff like new ways of doing work, and you have the old school mentality of we've always done it this way, and here where you're challenging the status quo. It's not telling those people who have done it that way that it was wrong and they're bad people for it. That's what they hear, and I think that's why people get so defensive. But it's not about that at all. It's about just knowing better and doing better. You know what I mean? So I think that's an important distinction to make. It's not an attack on you as a person for doing it that way. It's just saying, hey, this is better and you can't agree. You can't argue that. No. It's a fact that the stuff you're working on is going to help people. It's going to prevent.
Absolutely.
There's probably studies behind it. I know Pain BC, it's a research body. There's facts and you're gathering data. Tell me a little bit more about the Guideline. What does that look like? So it's a text service.
Yep.
And so one thing Trevor mentioned actually when I was talking to him was a lot of guys he knows, they feel great 9:30 in the morning because you're moving around, you got the adrenaline, you're feeling purpose, you're on the job, so you're doing things. And then you get home and all that shit and that pain is just waiting for you when you get home. So like you said,
Yeah.
that's why you have the extended hours. So when somebody texts in, what does it look like? Walk me through the process there.
Yeah, for sure. Like they'll just reach out and they'll get a prompt saying, thank you for reaching out. What can we help you with? And a lot of people are like, oh, great, it's a bot. But no, there's a person there.
Okay.
And so then let's say, I've got some back pain. Okay, let's talk about that. What have you been doing so far? Is working that's helping? You can have a conversation like that with them, or
Yeah.
you can say, I'm looking for a resource to help me with it.
Mm.
So then the person on the line could, like I mentioned, Build Strong. We've talked with this company called Build Strong by SERP. They offer some myoactivation. Maybe it's something you can look into. But what we usually do is after the conversation of everything they're looking for, our person who's running it will give them a whole list of resources and they'll email it to them. So
Okay.
give them the option. So, okay, Build Strong by SERP, but maybe there's a pain clinic in their neighborhood, or maybe they've got a list of places that are very low cost or free. Try and give them the best options because a lot of times that's pretty pricey to go and do that stuff.
Yeah.
But everything we do with Pain BC is free. So it might also be one of those things that they offer some of the Pain BC services. So like I mentioned earlier, I was a coach. So you get 12 sessions with a coach absolutely free. If you need extended, you can talk to them, see if there is maybe an extension possible. It's rare, but maybe it'll work out. And what you do with those coaching sessions is you'll talk about sleep health, things that you can control. Because
Hmm.
a lot of times when you're dealing with pain, it's really hopeless feeling. We're trying to instill that hope in you and put you on a better path of being heard and understood. And then we also have our peer support wellness groups that are for different people. Like I think somebody said recently it was 6 or 7 different languages spoken in our groups.
Okay.
And then there's some for BIPOC. And yeah, it's amazing. And then we have our what's called Empowered Relief, which is a 2-hour webinar. So it's a crash course on pain science,
Yeah.
understanding how your brain works, how a brain can get stuck in that pain cycle, even though you're healed. And then we have Making Sense of Pain, which is a 9-week course. It's an hour and a half every week
Mhm.
for that 9 weeks. And it's the same thing, but it just goes in more depth than that Empowered Relief would. So you really get into the pain science, you get into how breathing can help you, how mindfulness, how like sleep hygiene and exercise and all these different things, how your mindset can really dictate how you feel pain. It's really amazing resources. And like I said, it's absolutely free. The sad thing is it's been around 15, 17 years, something like that. And not a lot of people have heard of it, but an advertisement or ad campaign like we're doing, that's getting lots of attention.
Yeah.
So
Why? So why do you think it hasn't? It sounds like there's a ton of awesome resources and it's free. Like what?
amazing. Yeah.
Why aren't people taking advantage of it?
It's a really good question. I'm not 100% sure. And
Are
that's
they? Are
why
they? Is it an awareness thing? Are they not aware of it? Because I've
I
heard
think
the
it
same
could,
with EAPs at workplaces, employee assistance programs.
yeah.
Most places, well, all places I've worked, most places I think have them, and they've got like a 3 or 5% usage rate. And I
Wow.
think part of it is people don't know what it is. Like I know in onboarding, HR mentions it. Yeah, we have an EAP program. This is the number, but that's pretty much it. It's
Yeah.
and it's not perfect because I've used it and I've talked to other people who have. It's not perfect, but doing anything, just the process of trying, it gets you a step closer to where you need to get. So it's good that you're doing this campaign. Another important part too that I love about you and what you're doing is you come at it with lived experience. You're able
Hmm.
to help people who look like you, talk like you, act like you, live like you, right? You're not working from a clinical playbook.
No.
And that's where it's amazing that Pain BC has said, okay, we need a guy like James to help with that. So how does that show up in the people you interact with? Do you find, because with the conversation I had with Trevor and others is like, a lot of people don't seek help because it's not, the language isn't right. Like if you go to somebody and start talking about mental health and therapy and breath work right off the bat and you're a doctor, they're gonna be like, oh, wait.
It's,
But when you meet them where
yeah.
they are and having that lived
Yeah.
experience, I think that is a great way to connect with people. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like I tell this all the time. Like I do some counseling as well. And the clients that I work with, like they come from mostly First Nation background. So sometimes it's really hard to connect. And I always joke that if my professors seen how I counsel, I would have failed
Yeah.
because I don't do the clinical approach.
Yeah.
I 100% believe in autonomy and I let the people direct it.
Yeah.
And that's from when I was coaching with Pain BC. I told them, I'm sorry, like this is how I'm going to do it. And they're like, perfect, love it.
Yeah.
And, like working with people from the First Nation, there's people that it was forced for them to come and talk to me.
Okay.
And I would give them months of just, let's talk about something different and just building that connection with them. And I think the tradespeople are not a whole lot different because I think there's a lot of mistrust with it too. Like something where they're concerned about it coming back to their boss, but that's not how it is. Like what we want to do is, and what I like to do is truly, honestly meet them where they're at, like whatever they're coming from. And if it means we talk for 12 sessions about how bad the Oilers did this year in the playoffs, let's do it.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes to just build that connection and build trust. Because once you get that trust built, especially when you're dealing with pain, then the person can truly open up and they end up honestly telling you exactly what it is that's stopping from them without them even realizing it.
That's what was coming to mind as I was talking. It's similar to my experience too. I think deep down, people know what they're dealing with. And in the case of repressed memories and that, I'm not a brain expert. I think that might be a little bit different. But generally, if you have a minor to moderate issue that you're dealing with, you know what you're dealing with and you know what you need to do to get better. It's just you don't want to put the work in to get there and you don't want to face that.
Yeah, like it's scary.
And I've been there in therapy, right? When somebody starts talking at you, you're like, this isn't fucking helpful because I know. People have to you got to sit there with them and help them to them find the solution, like you said. Because if you just tell them, it's not, in my experience anyways, it's not that effective.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's been times where, we'll be talking about a pain that a person's experiencing and it just won't go away. And I'll say something just as simple as that. If that pain could talk, what would it say? And I know it sounds funny, and even if they want to just joke it off, let's joke it off. But a lot of times that leads to a reason why they feel it. Like there is some sort of trapped emotion from the past. Like they'll say, actually, I remember talking to my mom and this happened and I really felt horrible afterwards.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the pain? That's what comes up? And they're like, yeah. Even talking about it's worse. Like it's a stabbing pain.
Okay.
So it's so interesting. But our body holds, there's that saying, the body holds the score. I can't remember who wrote that book, but it's it's so true. Like our body will really show us what we need and what we don't need. Just like Gabor Mate's when the body says no.
So why, and this is a rhetorical question maybe, but why are we not taught to acknowledge that shit? Because it seems pretty basic. It's human things, right? And maybe it's a Western medicine thing, and I don't want to go, but even when you're talking about psychedelics before, I think people hear that and think, wow, this guy's doing drugs. But there's programs by actual medical doctors. I have a friend whose husband, he works in Toronto. He's a doctor, went to U of T, worked at an ER, and then he went on and opened this practice for alternative medicine, and he works with psychedelics for this type of treatment. So and that's the way, if you look at traditional medicine, First Nations and all, that's how it was natural, right?
100%.
So where did we go down this rabbit hole of not acknowledging that stuff? And
I do have an opinion on that because I do believe that, and I don't think they're doing anything wrong either, but the majority of our doctors, it has to point to something where it's a medical procedure to deal with this, where they don't look at the mind-body connection very often. Not very many do anyways. I have had it where some do have a mind-body connection, but in school, they don't really, I've heard a lot of doctors that they're not even really learning about pain. Yeah. So how would they understand that there is a mind-body connection? Like it's just, it's kind of like that analogy about when you're a hammer, the whole world's a nail kind of thing. And I think that doctors are no different. Again, I'm not trying to say anything bad about them. I just think that they're taught to fix something. And I even correlate it to a mechanic. So if you need an oil change, they're going to give you an oil change. They're not going to look at something else to prevent it. Where the doctors, again, they're not looking at our mind. even though they know, like maybe walk in and say, I'm going through a divorce and I'm just losing it. I mean, I can't even get out of bed. There's this or that, the other thing. It makes sense, but instead it's just a pill.
Yeah.
And sometimes the pills and stuff, they're okay to get you to a certain point, but a lot of times now they don't talk about getting out of those pills, where it becomes that's how you're going to be. You're just
Well,
taking those pills.
you're treating the symptom, not the problem.
100%.
But we reward just getting shit done. First of all, as a man, we're like problem solvers and we're providers, and we go out and we do shit and then we get results. That's how you're rewarded in construction. Get in the hole, get in the pit and dig the hole. Put that pipe up. The faster you do it, the quicker you do it, the more you're rewarded. So when I go back to this example with my wife a lot earlier on, before I knew about this stuff, she'd be venting about a problem or whatever. Not even necessarily between us, but something. I said, why don't you do this? No, she got upset. So I'm like, okay, maybe she wants options. So the next time it came up, I was like, okay, well, you could do this or this. And she got mad. And I was like, what the hell? I'm helping you solve your problems. And she helped me learn that's not what people want all the time.
Not always, no.
Holding space and acknowledging their experience and what they're going through, and just being there with them. I see you, I hear you, I'm here with you. There's a lot of power, right?
There is. Because like you nailed it on the head. Like, we're solution focused. If there's a problem, we want to fix it. We want to get rid of it. But sometimes that part of sitting back and just, like you said, holding space for somebody is powerful. They can get it all out. There's a lot of times where I'll get a text message from some of the people I talk to, and they say, do you have a minute? And I'll sit there and I'll listen, and they just do it all themselves. They just get it out, what's bothering them. And then they just go, oh, I feel so much better. Thank you for being there. And then that's it. I don't have to offer anything. Usually I do anyways. I'll just say, thank you so much for speaking up for yourself and doing something to take care of this. Because if you didn't do that, like, you did all the work, you acknowledged all what happened, you talked about your feelings involved with it and everything else, but now you can move on and have a better day, better week.
Buddy, no, sorry to interrupt you there.
That's okay.
It's the human side of construction. That's what we're talking. I had a conversation with a guy yesterday, an estimator in our office, and we were looking at an estimate. He was pricing a job, and I swear this is relevant to what we were talking about. And it was a quick meeting, and then I just said, oh, how did you end up doing this? And he fucking lit up. He was so happy telling his story, and at the end of it, about 15 minutes, he went on a little soliloquy. And at the end of it, I said, you know what, thanks for sharing your story. I appreciate that. And he goes, thank you for listening. And the value that I added by just taking a few minutes out of my day and just listening to this guy and acknowledging him. I think we live in such a transactional world, and the way construction culture works, it's so surface level. And deep down inside, we're all just wishing somebody would pay a little bit of attention to us. I always joke, I feel like we got all these big tough guys in construction. We're all just fucking 5-year-olds crying for moms. So you're doing a lot of cool stuff with the Pain BC here. Do you think a program like this could have changed your life had it existed, or had you known about it at the beginning of your journey here?
There is potential that we're going to start spreading across Canada, because it is getting so much attention. As you know, I was at the Canadian Pain Society conference in Quebec. And I mean, I'm walking in there and I'm trying to introduce myself to people, and they're like, yeah, we know who you are. And I was just blown away, because, here I am, thinking I'm just a dumbass coming and talking to all these scientists and researchers and everything else, just this blue collar grunt of a guy. And all these people already recognize what we're doing, and they're so excited about it, because it is being talked about all across Canada, what is going on in the trades, that it's been sorely overlooked for so long. And unfortunately, there's been so many deaths that finally got the attention of the nation.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful to be part of this. And I never thought I would be part of something like this, but like you mentioned earlier, having that lived experience is just giving a completely new perspective. And it's really opening up and getting a different perspective of what is truly going on there.
People need, sorry, go ahead.
I'm so grateful that people like you, like I love what you're doing. Your podcasts are amazing. I'm so impressed, but Botkin, what he's doing, ICBA, NBC, so many other
Mhm.
organizations, the stuff they're doing where they're just really humanizing the workers.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see.
We could go on for days here. Maybe there's a part
Yeah,
2 or a part 3 coming.
perfect.
There is definitely a lot to talk about, and it's long overdue, man. I think people are finally
Yeah,
smartening up that this isn't a sustainable way to live our lives and operate the industry.
yeah,
And so it's nice to see. So a couple
yeah.
questions I like to ask to kind of to close out the show here. It's one is an actionable insight, right? So if there's a company owner or a project leader or a project manager listening to this right now and they're thinking, okay, guys, I get it, but what can I actually do? What would you tell them or their approach on the job or interacting with people? What's one piece of actionable advice that they could take with them on Monday?
You know what? It's kind of like what we were just talking about not long ago. Is just sit back and listen. You don't have to throw anything out. Just let them tell you what you need. And I think that will go a long way. It'll build a better communication system from the bosses down. And, I think it'll also make people, if there is hazards on site, instead of just kind of brushing it aside or maybe not talking about it or being scared to talk about it because it might point the finger at somebody else, it gives an opportunity for a bigger conversation.
Yeah.
And then we can move mountains with those conversations. I think that's the biggest thing and a lot of the bosses I'm hearing, that's what they are doing. They are listening
Yeah.
and they're actually trying to help guys. And a lot of guys are actually having pushback because they're nervous about it. And I
Yeah.
understand where that nerve comes from. So I hope that can just, with those conversations, it can just really build a sense of trust for those guys that they understand that they are being heard. And, if they do report something, they're not just being thrown out and have no pay or anything else, that they're going to still work with them.
Yeah. And that's why it's important and I like having these conversations because it needs to be normalized, right? This thing, because it's something everybody experiences, whether it's mental health challenges or pain. You're going to go through it at some point in your life. And we need to get out of this mindset of, oh, just shove it down, keep going, be a man. That's not strength, right?
No.
So, last one here, knowing what you know now, what would you say to somebody who's maybe sitting in the same conditions you were a few years ago, in
Oh,
not the best living conditions, in pain, considering if it was worth going on?
yeah. Well, first off, I just want to give that poor bastard a big old hug
Mhm.
because I know what they're going through. But I think, and I'm kind of slowly doing it. Like I've talked to a lot of people. I go to the pool most mornings, and it's a lot of people trying to rehab their body from injuries that they're not even getting help with. And what I just try and let them know that there is help.
Yeah.
The stress that they're going through being off, the uncertainty of where the next check is going to come from, how long until they're getting cut off, those kind of things, that just exacerbates the pain.
Mhm.
It could be something that maybe could last a year and it turns into, like, for me, I was off for 6 years and I see that too often. But if I could just let people know that there is a path forward, and that's kind of why I'd like to tell my whole story, is just because there was a lot of darkness. I was suicidal, everything else, but coming out of this and doing things that I never ever thought that I could do, they're the same way. Like, I'm not special. I'm not different than them.
Yeah.
They can have the same opportunities. It's just the number one thing that I want to tell everybody out there is they have to advocate for themselves in
Mhm.
some way or another, but also know that there are people there to support you.
Yeah. No, very wise words, James. I really appreciate your perspective and thank you for sharing your insights and your experience and really appreciate you and what you're doing. How can people learn more about
Yeah,
what you're
thank
doing
you.
at Pain BC and like maybe can you drop the website and I can include it in the show notes, but
Yeah,
maybe
for sure.
how can people reach out and get in touch?
Yeah, so painbc.ca. You'll find all of our stuff on there. There's some drop downs. You can look at some of the different programs. There is some prompts right on the head page where you can go to our what's called PSL, which is our pain support line.
Hmm.
So that's just the phone in version of our tech support line. So at the PSL, same thing. And I also want people to know that this is not only for people in the trades. This is for everybody.
Okay.
So anybody dealing with pain, period, they can phone that line and say, hey, this is what's going on for me. And it's same as what I mentioned earlier, where they can give them a list of resources to help them, and they will work with them for a little while to try and get what they need. And then, like I said, the pain support line, it's just you text, or sorry, our guideline, you text in and do it. And there's a
Mhm.
prompt right on the front page of our website as well. And yeah, you can find a ton of stuff on there. And if you're ever, the easiest way to get a hold of me is my full name, James.Boseley at painbc.ca. So if there's something you want to talk to me about directly, don't hesitate. I'll do whatever I can to help anybody, because I've been in that position where wondering what to do, and
Yeah.
I'm there to help if I can.
No, I really appreciate that. Thanks again for
Yeah.
coming on, James. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you. I've seen your podcast, especially with the Ellis Don guy, and it
Yeah.
just blew my mind, those conversations. And that's what's needed here. So I'm beyond grateful for you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. It's all about making the industry a better place, right? Improving the
Yep,
human experience. Because at the end of the day, that's what gets the job done is the humans on site. So thank you.
exactly. Yeah. No, thank you.
So thanks. This has been the human side of construction. Thanks for listening. If you share a similar experience or you want to talk about how your company is addressing these challenges, feel free to reach out. I'd love to see how we can work together. Thanks a lot. Take care. We'll see you next time.